James, welcome to Real Vision.
Thank you, Ash. Thanks for having me today.
It's a pleasure to have you here. We're here to talk about some of my favorite things in this space, product and strategy. You're head of product strategy at TradeStation Crypto. I should say at the top, we appreciate the fact that you've recently become a Real Vision partner at TradeStation. We appreciate that.
It's been awesome to be part of the launch of the Real Vision crypto channel. We've been a big fan of Real Vision, and it's exciting to see the steps into crypto.
Yeah. It's funny. We were talking a little bit about product, about strategy. I actually noticed when I was doing some research on you last night that you and I were both at ETrade. You were at ETrade, I think about 5 years before I was. And interestingly enough, I was actually a product manager at ETrade. So this has been a long-term passion of mine. Tell us a little bit about your journey into this space, about your background on the financial side, and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think first I forgot crypto. We got to read disclaimer. These thoughts are my own thoughts and not a representation of TradeStation. But you mentioned ETrade. It's quite interesting. It's like an ETrade mafia. The entire financial industry usually has folks that have somehow passed through the ETrade ranks. It's quite awesome to see how everyone's grown into these really prominent roles. To the question about how my journey into financial services. I would say purely by luck. I've always had a passion for trading, and my first trade was when I was 18 years old. I remember I bought Best Buy, and I remember my dad was really hammering me about trading, and I thought, my dad wants me to do this. It obviously can't be cool. Then I made some money on Best Buy, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. And I was hooked ever since then. Right out of college, I ended up joining a company that was a small trading firm that was trying to take their trading technology and make it available for prop trading firms. I was employee number 4. It was awesome because we grew it, ended up having an equity product, an options product, and an FX product. And we ended up selling the company, which was really fantastic. I'm 26 years old, 27 years old, but it's also the worst thing you can do to somebody in the mid-20s is give them immediate success because they just think that everything is easy from there. Yeah. And so followed from that, I ended up partnering with some folks to start a hedge fund and also to build on the FX technology umbrella that we were previously doing. And that went well, but obviously it was not as easy as the first one. So over time, my interest sort of drifted from the main company, and I had an opportunity to go out to ETrade and help them build an algorithm trading system for their active trader audience. And when I got there, the first day I arrived there, they said, well, thanks for coming, but the project is no longer on the table. A bit shocking when you move from Florida to California for a job and, now I'm like, okay, well, what am I going to do now? Fortunately, I had an FX background, and this was the time when they were trying to cultivate and grow the FX business. So they said, hey, well, a little thing or two about that. And can you help us integrate this into the active trader product and make it a business for our active traders? And it was quite interesting, quite a unique experience. And I think that's really kind of one of the starts that I had with really figuring out where I fit in these organizations. Like having this startup background and going to a big company like ETrade was shocking to me. Yeah. You get to a place and they say, sit in this cubicle, do this thing with a PowerPoint. You only need to be here from 9 to 4. And I'm like, wait a minute, I just came off of 18 hours working 7 days a week. What do you mean? I could do 2 of these jobs. So you can quickly accelerate in that environment when you're willing to do more than just the PowerPoint thing. And but it was really unique ride for me to get that product off the ground. Actually got a call from TradeStation about 3/4 of the way through the development of that product. And they offered me a job back in Florida, which was where I was originally living. And I kind of weighing the pros and cons. ETrade was awesome, but I was living in San Francisco, and I was living in a shed converted to an apartment behind somebody's house. And it was twice as much as my 3-bedroom house with a pool in Florida. So I thought, this is really a no-brainer. Yeah. Going back to Florida. And for me, going to TradeStation was really thrilling because throughout my entire career, I've always been a user of TradeStation, whether we were building businesses on top of it, trading directly through it, using their sort of trading technologies. It became really a cornerstone for me, and getting a chance to go to the mothership and really help grow that the product was extremely exciting for me. And it's been such a very cool ride from there. I got there. They asked me to go and launch a Japanese equities trading business. So I spent a lot of time back and forth to Japan, help them figure out how to expand. So we're owned by Monex, and Monex Group is really more like Charles Schwab, where they have a high retail audience. And they did an acquisition of TradeStation because we are really skilled around active traders. The context I like to give is at ETrade, I think our traders traded one time a quarter. So you have a lot of traders with not a lot of, like, averaging a lower trade volume. At TradeStation, we're seeing 500 trades a year on average from our customers. So it's like a big difference in customer base. So Monex bought TradeStation because of that active trader knowledge. And so when they acquired them, they wanted somebody to take their active trader products and launch them in Japan and help them cultivate a business. Very quickly, I realized I was over my head, but I realized that I probably should have said no to the project, but it became such a really super interesting learning experience for me. I'm not sure if you know, but I learned along the way that there's around 13 different ways to say the word buy in Japanese. And buy, imagine it's an order ticket. There's only one buy button. Well, unfortunately, if you're buying with cash, if you're buying with margin, if you're buying with day margin, there's all these different things. And you get in a room and nobody can agree on what the actual word is. So it's a very interesting experience. I also learned that the word height does not mean yes, it means we understand. And so, you learn a lot of these cultural lessons, and it was such an awesome growth experience for me to be able to go out there as in hindsight, a very ignorant Westerner to go to Japan and try to change things. And, it's humbling to really understand, at the core, we're all traders. We all are driven by fear and greed, but there's a lot of nuances in how we interact with software, present software, and experience things that need to be presented differently. And so that was really, really kind of a cool experience.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. I think people who have a background in product tend to see the world slightly differently. All of these really sort of things that you think about vaguely become very specific and very sort of mandatory when you're doing them on the product side. I remember when I was working at Credit Suisse, building an international equities trading system, and it had to be in French, Italian, and German. And then when we had to translate it into German broke all the buttons because the words were too damn long. They were twice as long as they were in French or Italian. So all of these sort of cultural understandings. And I think that the nature of product is really interesting for that reason. Another thing we were talking about, which kind of gets us into crypto and the weird mindsets, we were talking a little bit offline. You, of course, were involved in the FX projects over at ETrade. And I remember when they hired their first FX person, I guess about 5 years earlier when I was there. And this guy, because I was working on a products page, and he said, "Can we talk a little bit, go out for a coffee or something?" I said, "Yeah, sure." And he said, "They want me to show reverse rates." I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "Like, if you're going from dollars to euro, they want me to invert the rate. Nobody does that." I said, "Why on earth would they want you to do that?" And he said, "Well, because they figure if you're buying euro and you have dollars, you want to see it the other way. It doesn't work that way." All of these assumptions, all of these sort of mental frameworks become very clear when you're the guy or the gal who has to figure out what the screen flow looks like, what the buttons are. And it's just a great way to think about, I think, and understand the real mental frameworks that underlie trading decisions, investing decisions, and understanding the products themselves.
Yeah. So I totally agree. I remember arguing at E-Trade in FX. We use these two big buttons with the quotes and then maybe some depth of market below it. And I had to fight like it with my life depended on it to convince folks that we needed that order ticket and that the traditional equities order ticket wasn't going to cut it. And so, it's just, what you touched on is so interesting. When we're trading, the smallest thing that's unfamiliar or glitchy throws us off our game. And you start, you got to trade in the market and the screen blinks. You're like, do I have the right price? Did my order get filled? Did I get something? And now you're off your game and you're worried about the problem instead of the trade that you're working on. I think it's a hard thing for product folks and technology providers to nail, because that psychological part, we're already, as traders, we're already addicted. You don't need to addict me anymore, but you just need to make sure the thing works and it's stable for me.
Hey, if you like this clip, be sure to check out the full interview and more only on realvision.com/crypto. It's 100% free. Sign up now.